Welcome everyone. I'm super excited to have you all here today. Today we're going to talk about the new highlights of Altium Designer 20. So let's get started. So throughout this webinar, we are going to start some polls. This will be recorded, so you will get an email with the recording later. You will be able to find it on YouTube and also at resources.altium.com/webinars. Okay, so if you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A section and not in the chat section. The chat section makes it really difficult to communicate back and forth. It's more one-sided. So if you have a statement, like, someone wanted me to start off with Duncan wanted me to start off with an engineering joke. That's a statement. It was a lot easier, for me to get that information. If there's something you can't see, something like that, that's better for me to get that information. So let's get started. Okay, can everyone see my slides? Just raise your hand really quick, pop them up. Yep, okay, I'm seeing hands. Okay, let's get started. Okay, today we're talking about what's new in Altium Designer 20. I'm really excited to share all of this with all of you today. We're going to start out 3 initiatives in Altium Designer 20. We're going to break down 3 major aspects of changes in Altium Designer. So we're going to go into schematic changes, routing changes, DRC, and then we're going to go into a live demonstration of the tool. And then we're going to do a question and answer section so that we can answer some of your major questions. We will be having some follow-up webinars focusing specifically on routing. We already had one. We're going to have another one next week. Myself and Maxim Borisov, product manager for routing, will be taking care of that. So please take a look at that. And I'm also working on another webinar. I'm not totally sure on the name yet, something like 10 Secrets of Altium Designer 20. That's focusing on some of the underlying features that, they're not the big highlights, but there's some of the things that are changing in Altium Designer 20 that are really important as well. So the 3 main initiatives that make Altium Designer very special. This is the culmination of 3 distinct initiatives: user focus, closing the gap, and long-term R&D investment. This is the first time that all 3 of these initiatives are coming together and intersecting, right? This is really, really special, right? We've been working on all of these things independently, but this is the first time that everything is working together at the same time. That's good. I'm seeing questions coming in already. Keep them coming. Right, so let's first start with the user focus. So I'm sure a lot of you have worked with the Altium Live before. This is our way to engage with the community. Community engagement is very important to us. You can see here the amount of engagement we have been focusing on. It has increased 73%. There have been 5,000 individual votes that are being addressed, and this is going to affect 2,000 individual users in this release alone. You can see over the years the upward trajectory of this, and we're trying to further increase this. The more you go on to bug crunch, idea section, and you engage, the easier it is for us to engage with you and understand a little bit more. So we have a poll question here about, have you used bug crunch before? That's something that is really important for us to know. Not everyone knows about it, and it's something that's really important for us to know that you can engage with us. I personally manage the Concord Pro forum, so if you have any questions about Concord Pro, please come there, ask questions, and I will engage with you. Of course, there's other people there as well, but I just wanted to point that out. Second part, closing the gap. So with our previous releases with 17, 18, 19, there was a big focus on a particular type of functionality, right? So you can see here in this coverage map, but for example, in 17, we have a big focus on placement, for example. And as we progressed in 18, 19, we tried to expand that coverage. And finally, with Altium Designer 20, we have fully covered we have expanded that functional coverage of all PCB, the core of PCB design. And I want to emphasize that this is the magnitude of coverage for each release, right? So think of it as like a zero starting point for each release, right? So the main goal is to keep going each time. And that builds on the long-term R&D investment, right? So the routing improvements that are seen today in Altium Designer 20 are very significant. They are the first of many results from 4 years of development. So a couple years ago, we had a large team working on Altium Designer, but the different teams, it was one team that worked on Altium Designer as a whole. A couple years ago, we split off into dedicated development teams. And one of the first teams that was developed was the interactive routing team. So what we are seeing today in Altium Designer the Altium Designer 20 is one of the first major results of that initiative. We're also seeing some results of another dedicated team in the schematic changes and a new dedicated team in a new simulation engine, which we will talk about in a little bit. Okay, so let's start talking about the actual changes themselves. Let's go into the schematic. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the concept of compilation. Once you go into a design, compilation allows you to understand the information of the components and nets, and it will update it based on your entire design. This will help you on larger designs. You no longer need to compile the design. The larger the design, the faster the update, the results of this will be, right? Anytime you make a change, that information is updated dynamically. This supports all of the areas that need information on your components and nets. So you'll see a significant update in different areas. I highly recommend you go into the mini PC example that is included in Altium Designer 20 and just open the mini PC active BOM, and you'll see the changes. Just go in 19 and 20 and you'll see how significant the difference is. The DirectX rendering engine. So for your schematic design, actually being able to visualize things within the schematic, it's a lot faster. It's a much smoother process, being able to zoom, pan, just in general graphical operations, the fluidity of the whole process has been enhanced. On top of that, we introduced the properties panel in Altium Designer 18. This was one of the most significant changes in Altium Designer 18. The properties panel is prevalent throughout all of Altium Designer. It is used in different areas. I mention it here in the schematic as one of the major places where it is utilized. It has been redesigned in order to decrease the amount of scrolling that is necessary while using the actual properties panel. We've improved how the icons are situated. We've added parameter filters, and we have identified that the properties panel, again, through user feedback, talking to all of you, the panel itself is really optimized for editing multiple objects at once. But we saw that there was a need for a properties dialog. So we brought back a properties dialog like there was in Altium Designer 17. So you double click or right click the menu and you get a properties dialog that is optimized for single editing. The experience looks very similar to the properties panel, but it has been optimized in a dialog option, and that is for single item editing. You can see here, as I mentioned, the parameters filtered options here. You can push button click and you get the information you need, and you could add the areas that are necessary. And again, it's really important to emphasize that these changes are based on the feedback we get from users, right? The more we talk to all of you, the more we realize, changes that need to be made. So, please, reach out when you feel that things need to change. We really do listen. So that is my key, role here, is to facilitate that communication, right? To communicate the changes that are made from the product side, and to get information from all of you and bring it back to the product team, changes that need to be made. So on the other side, we have the polygon pour. Same thing, just enhancing the properties panel yet again with some actions. The new simulation engine. So as I mentioned, we have a new dedicated team. Results are much faster now. Now we can, we have more support for different models. The reliability accuracy of the are significantly better. The mathematical functions have improved. As I said, there's a new team, so there will be a lot of improvements to come. If there are specific things you're looking for in the simulation space, we would like to talk to people about things that they're looking for. So please feel free to reach out, speak on the forums, ideas area of Altium Live. Feel free to reach out to, send me an email, and we could speak. Now, my favorite part of Altium Designer 20, the most exciting part, I think, talking about the new routing engine. So we have developed a new push and shove engine. What this does is it glosses over everything, makes the routing experience a lot smoother. As you are going through and routing, it makes it a lot easier to get through very difficult areas. Non-45 degree traces are very simple to create now. You can easily create and edit these traces as well. You can see you can get results that look very similar to when they were back in the tape and Mylar days. On top of that, with this new engine, you have advanced capabilities to push and shove. You can even get arcs that push up into other traces. And this will help prevent both acute angles and right angles. It's gonna prevent acid traps. It's gonna prevent loops and disconnects while you're routing. If you have T-junctions, they will operate together so that they don't disconnect while you are moving them. Of course, while you're routing, you're gonna have to tune. Previously, in our older versions, like in 19, when you were creating an area for tuning, you had to create this complex system, and you had like all these vertices. And you see this picture in 19. With all of these vertices, it created this mess where you weren't maximizing your space for tuning. So what we've done is we've created a persistent rectangular shape that can be moved around. This will help you optimize the usage of your space. This can be easily moved, edited, and resized, right? And this will work equally well for differential pairs. Once again, I want to emphasize, we're going to have another webinar fully dedicated to routing. There's a recording up already. If you don't want to wait, you can just take a look at that. But we'll have another live one probably next Thursday, like the 12th. I'm not totally sure yet, but just so you know. I come from an embedded systems background, so this is something I'm really excited about. Length tuning for just pure length was always kind of confusing for me. So we are introducing length tuning based on time of flight, right? Based on the need for the propagation delay. So this will automatically calculate the delay necessary, the length, and you will see the end-to-end length included with the vias and pads. This is in partnership with Symbian for the trace delay calculations, and this is the same company we work with for our impedance calculations. Let's see, do I have any other? Oh, okay. I have one more poll to ask. Okay, last poll. So this rule, the main idea of all our rules here, we've found that we are moving into a realm of higher density boards, higher voltage boards, and we wanted to create rules to kind of go in that direction, right? We found that this rule was requested by 255 users. I know that might not sound like much, but that is actually one of the highest requested ideas on Altium Live. So again, I will emphasize, please go on there and vote, express your ideas. So what does the creepage rule do? It's designed for high voltage applications greater than 30 volts. You can see here in the picture to the right, you have the two traces, both on the top and the bottom layer. If there is not sufficient distance between them, you can get an arc that runs through the two. So what you want to do is create a significant distance between them with a slot, right? And this is calculating this distance in 3D as well, right? So with the slot, you will have enough distance between the two so that you will not have that arc. So that's the basic explanation of that. I'll show that a little bit later. Next one, return path check. Got some, okay. Return path check. So when you have a signal trace, if there is a missing reference polygon, you're going to get inductive loops. It's going to increase the impedance because it won't flow in a straight line, right? So you have to make sure that below the signal trace there is a reference polygon. What this will do is it will check. You will make sure that there is a proper reference polygon. If not, you can extend that polygon and make sure to continue. Okay, let's switch over to the demonstration. I'm gonna end this poll. Okay. Drink some water really quickly. Okay. Move my microphone a little bit so it's kind of in the way of the screen. Okay. So I have opened up the mini PC documents, and I have this JTAG connector. So we're going to start by looking at the changes to the properties panel. So we have the properties panel here. You can see the different areas. We have the footprint. We have the new push button filtration system. You can hide the different areas. And then double click and bring up the dialog. And you can see all of the information, same push button filters. If I want to add a rule, add any information, I can do that here. And I can continue onwards. So as I mentioned earlier, being able to double click on an item and bring this up, this is really going to help me edit singular items. If I have just one item that I need to make a change to, you can see right here, it's automatically went to the designator. I could change that designator really quickly and continue on with my next task. But if I have multiple items, I still have the properties panel to quickly switch between items and make changes for multiple items, and just make things a little bit easier. We talked about the new schematic rendering engine. So I want to show that I can move things very quickly while zooming. So I'm simultaneously doing both. I can also copy and paste. I did not copy the nets. Okay. So from there, I'm going to annotate the schematic. And when I come over to my design, we could see that automatically in my navigator, since my design compiles dynamically, my information is here, my component information and my netlist information. Normally, in older versions, you would have to compile your whole design. And you could see, you know, I wouldn't want to have to compile this project just to see those tiny changes. That would be a lot of effort. So, you know, it helps you out as you're working to incrementally have those updates work for you. Okay, from here, we're going to go to the mini PC project itself. And we're going to start by taking a look here. So by simply doing shift space, we can see the different type of routing options we have here. And hitting tab, we go to the properties area and we can see the different corner styles we have. Again, as I said, shift space is the shortcut, and the glossing effect. So I'm going to leave it there. We have all of the different types. And then I can do control click, and we can see here it finished, right? Not a lot of people know about this, but if I click this and I hit tab, I can select my whole trace right there. So I can do route, I can gloss selected, and I can make that just a little bit cleaner, right? I can move this as necessary. Coming over here, talking about the glossing engine, we have an odd angle route here. We see how it's not a usual angle, right, for this route. And we see how it wraps around just as we need. It goes tangential to the pads as we want. Talked about T-junctions. You see right here in Altium Designer 19 or prior, this would break apart into different pieces, but we can see here that it stays as one piece and it moves together. Let's switch back to the front. We talked about area tuning. So I'm going to use the shortcut U and then R, right, to initiate area tuning to create a persistent shape. And I can just move the shape as necessary. You see, we can move it along this corner path here as necessary. And we could also, when we click it, change the vertices. And then I'm going to click on this and I'm going to change it to delay units. I can change the rule here as necessary just to show how simple it is to change the constraint type. We have the amplitude here, and we could change it with the shortcut keys that you're used to as well, of course. But not only does this work for single pairs, it also works for differential pairs. So we have this one here. You know, it used to be rather difficult to work along two vertices, but you can see here working along a vertice like this is a lot simpler. You can click the wrong, oops. I did interactive single pair. Interactive differential pair. Interesting. I have to get rid of these interactive single pairs. Okay. The wrong shortcut. Interactive differential pairs. Interesting. Okay. Here we go. So as you can see, this was along a vertice, and you have no wasted space being utilized here. You can make the change as necessary, and you have no issue here. And that just makes it very easy to optimize your space, move things as necessary, and really make sure to make things you know, as simple as possible at all times. So the last thing I want to show is the creepage rule. So we have here, as I mentioned, this is going to measure this in 3D space. We have this component. It's on the bottom side. It comes from the bottom right here. It comes through top side. It's saying we are failing this, right? It needs to be 30 millimeters. It's only at 19. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this. I'm going to copy this slot here. I'm going to add one right here, right? So I don't know how many you are familiar with the PCB rules and violations panel, but you can run one individual rule at a time, which is why I like to use it. So I'm just going to run the creepage distance rule, and you see that it is now gone, right? And I have simply resolved my problem that quickly, and I am now ready. I have completed this aspect of my design here. So from here, that is the end of the demonstration. As I said, Altium Designer 20 is available now. You can go to altium.com/products downloads. The release notes are available on the documentation page. You can sign up for a free trial right now if you would like to try it out for yourself. If you are on active subscription, you can just download it now and get started. I'm going to open it up to questions now. I want to thank everyone for their time. I hope you are as excited as I am. Again, please go on Altium Live, talk with us. We have follow-up webinars, so keep a lookout for those. And I want to thank everyone for their time again.